you're a strong woman going out, pursuing your dreams, doing what you can, not leaving anything on the table. And right now it might be hard for your family, but your girls are going to look at you and they're going to know that their mom rocks, their dad rock, and you guys don't just keep doing it. Don't
Wow.
worry. And it was like, I don't even know. That kind of paraphrased it, but it was like
That moment
so,
she needed it.
I needed it. And
Mhm. Welcome back to the Own Your Awkward podcast. I'm your host, Andy Vargo, and every episode we get into what has made our guests vulnerable and how they've learned how to own their awkward in order to live their best life. Stay tuned so you can hear every awkward moment in today's show. All right. Hey, friends, welcome back to the most awkward of all the awkward episodes we're ever going to have on the Own Your Awkward podcast. Today, we have the owners of Awkward Brewing in Fayetteville, Georgia, Amanda and Andrew Poliak. Thank you for being here, guys. I'm super excited for this episode.
hi, thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so I never even knew there was an Awkward Brewing, and a friend of mine wandered into your brewery, and then you guys were so nice and gave her a shirt to send to me, which is right here on the front. It says, "Is it awkward in here? Or is it just me?" And it is by far my favorite shirt that doesn't have my logo on it. It's like the only one that I will wear that's not my brand. I
It's
just love
awesome.
it. So how did first of all, I'm flipping the script a little bit. How do you guys define awkward? What do you think of as something awkward?
It's a really hard question. It's such a natural word for so many people to say, but it's really hard to like pin it down. It's an emotion. I mean, it could be an adjective, a verb, right? All of those things. So um, I don't know how awkward, but we all have a little bit of awkward in us, or some more than others. And I just think everyone can relate to being awkward, those awkward moments. And we
It's
decided to embrace that.
it's true. We say we're awkward in real life as well. So
Absolutely.
but a lot of times you can sum it up like Macklemore, since you're from Washington, when he
Mm.
talks about going to a club and dancing, what do I do with my hands?
Right.
Everyone's had those
I don't know
moments.
what to do right
You
here.
know? Yeah,
I know.
exactly.
Yeah.
So we felt like everyone's like Amanda said, everyone's awkward in some definition of the word. And I would
Hmm.
say not, there's occasionally it's viewed as negative, like when it's used in speech, when you do something that maybe is untoward or embarrassing or whatever. But most of the time, those are the best stories, right? So you never know.
Maybe not
It's
at the
usually
time,
not too
but
bad.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Now, what got you into deciding to make beer?
Oh, that's you story.
Yeah. It's kind of a
It
story.
is kind of
And
your
I will say I'm
story.
Okay.
actually not at all an owner of Awkward Brewing. I'm the landlord of the brewery because I own the
Ooh,
property.
Yes.
okay.
And then so I'm her landlord and she's my boss at the brewery because occasionally she works. But
That's a that's an awkward and dynamic relationship right there.
it's perfect. If
We
she's
keep it
too
real.
mean to me as a boss, I'll raise her rent.
We keep it real.
Right.
Um, so I think how it all started, I work in automotive as my day gig. And so I travel, and for the last 25 years, I've traveled everywhere they build cars.
Mm.
So whether it was in China or Italy or wherever, Japan, instead of going to the sake place or the wine place or the soju place or whatever it was, I would always go find a brewery.
Hmm.
And I had this spreadsheet that I was logging them in, and uh, I told Amanda actually before the spreadsheet, I said, I travel and have had all these amazing beers. I should probably start taking note of them. So for Father's Day, and I can send you some pictures, but in 2008, she bought me a journal, like a nice handwritten journal. And so that first weekend, because Father's Day weekend in Washington State has the mother of all Father's Day beer festivals,
Hmm.
we started by trying a lot of beers that day and logging what we liked, what we didn't. Her sister's a great artist and wrote in it. So anyway, I told my coworkers that my goal was to try 365 new beers in a year. And when I hit 413, I was on a drive between Holland, Michigan and Detroit. And there was this brewery that also had a homebrew shop in the middle that I think was Detroit Beer Company or something. I think Kid Rock might have invested in it. And my coworker walks out with this box of brewing equipment. and brings it out and said, well, you hit your goal. Now learn to beer. Now learn how
Oh,
to brew.
that was a gift for
So
you, huh? Wow.
yeah, and I started brewing in the kitchen and spilling over too much on the stove, which got her mad because it was sticky. So she
Mhm.
kicked me out to the garage. Started brewing all day on a Saturday where she felt like, where's Andrew? Why isn't he here? So she started coming out. And the rules of brewing is you can't brew without drinking. And you really
Mhm.
can't look at, well, when you get professional,
You
she's told
should.
me that's caused some problems, but you're so we would sit in the garage and brew and you can't really look at your phone. So we'd sit there and just talk about the future and really reconnect as a couple and enjoy it. And that's how we started brewing together. And then one day drinking too much, we said, what should we do after I get out of the corporate
It's
world?
always like, what are we going to do? Because I was a nurse. What are we going to do when we retire from our our adult jobs? And we always thought it would be so fun to open a brewery. And so we would start dreaming what the brewery was going to look like and what we would brew and all of the things and the name of it. And I think the name of it was the biggest, and that was going back and forth. And
We were being particularly not sober at the moment, brewing
Mhm.
beer and being silly about it. We said, "Ooh, a good name would be Awkward Brewing," because this was in the era of when people would do the like awkward turtle hand gestures
Oh,
or
right.
awkward flagpole, and we'd do that in meet. I'd do that in meetings. Like if somebody said something inappropriate, you'd just be like, or she actually has this thing that goes back to when we met. If we're ever in a social environment and I'm talking too much or being obnoxious or saying stuff that shouldn't be said, she would just look at me with these eyes and go like this, which means crawl back under your rock, Poliak,
Oh,
because you're
wow.
being obnoxious. So we had all these things. So we said Awkward Brewing would be a good name. And we had had a couple drinks. So I went on the US Patent and Trademark Office website and applied for Awkward Brewing trademark on a brewery.
Nice.
And then we actually pretty much got it. So
Yeah.
but
well,
you
we
have
did
to
get it.
show that it was in use within 6 months. So he's like, man, I have this, I'm traveling all the time. I can't do this. So, and I was just like, I mean, I was working as well and had two young kids, but I was like, you know what? Let's do it. I'm going to
Mhm.
open it.
And when we say let's do it, really she did everything
I
because I was
did.
traveling. So she got the
Did.
TTB approval. I helped her do the build out when we were still in Washington
Yeah.
State, but all the taxes, all the applications, all the everything to make
Wow.
a brewery.
And
And all
We
of
did
a
it.
sudden the state said, and state and the federal government was like, okay, you're a brewery. And I was like, oh, okay.
wow, yeah, there you're like, I guess we are
You're a
doing this.
brewery.
And it's one
But she
thing
got the circle R on
But
Awkward Brewing. That's why I see it on the little logo.
yeah,
we're
that's the
still home
important thing.
brewing, perfecting recipes, doing all of that as well. Still loving to taste different styles of beer from different breweries and knowing what we love and what that went out. But the first beer that went out was Awkward Pineapple, and that's
Okay.
a pineapple wheat beer. And in fact, I actually have it on tap in the brewery today, right
Oh,
now.
wow.
So,
I need to get
well,
to Atlanta a lot sooner than I thought. That sounds
yeah,
delicious.
it's a delicious beer. So yeah, but we're still brewing some of the originals and
Yeah.
I love
yeah.
that. Yeah. So I was going to ask you about the name. You guys kind of covered the whole thing there, and
Sorry.
Sorry, we went in one
no,
big
no,
group.
that's perfect. What I love is how passionate you are about it, and it's so interesting to me that it started with Andrew's passion for drinking beer, and then it
Yeah,
became Amanda's business. But
yeah,
what's so beautiful in that is that piece where you talk about just being in the garage, brewing beer, reconnecting as a couple,
yeah,
and realizing this can be something that can just actually be a livelihood.
Hmm.
right. And
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a
It's
lot of fun.
very crazy to go from Washington, where you can start in basically like a third bay of a garage and you can
Mhm.
self-distribute and you can do it on a half barrel brew magic to Georgia, where the beer laws are totally different. So you
So
have
Right.
to
hard.
scale up and you have to do so many things different that it was very challenging, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
And that was something that came to mind when you were telling that part of your journey is that it's hard enough to open a business, let alone add food production of any sort, then let alone have it be alcohol. Like each layer has extra, as you
right,
guys well know,
right.
Yeah.
rules and laws. And then for people who are outside of the industry, when you switch states, the game completely changes. How was that journey for you guys?
Oh man, it was hard. It was growing up in Washington State, never having lived anywhere else. moving to the South, not knowing anyone, basically.
Wow.
Um, just kind of, I just needed a minute for me and the kids and Andrew too, just to like, okay, we have to figure out what this whole South thing is and how we can, work here and live here. And once that happened, then it was like, all right, now let's get Awkward reopened. What is that going to look like? Learning the rules, learning the different beer laws, where it could go. It couldn't be in the house, which was fine. We actually wanted to get it to be bigger. So I knew that the place where Awkward Brewing was going to be needed to be in a area where I could own. Well, he's actually owning it, but where we could own and not necessarily lease the space.
Right.
It needed to be, it just needed to be kind of, I had it in my head what I wanted. You're from Washington. You've been to probably breweries in Washington. Some of them are such little holes in the wall or outdoors, and they're just not these big, huge open spaces. Here it's different. When we moved here, they didn't have those kind of breweries. They didn't understand the like little hole in the wall, back alley, where are we going kind of breweries.
They're like, you're calling this a business? What did you do?
Right, exactly. So when I found where Awkward is now, it was a little over an acre of residential home. There was actually two homes on it, a couple outbuildings and a big field. And it was zoned residential, and we brought it to the city to get it rezoned to commercial mixed use because there was a couple tenants in one of the houses that we wanted to keep living there. Anyways, so we wanted to rezone it to commercial mixed use, and that was a little bit challenging because it was trying to convince the city that no, I promise you this will work. And they were seeing some of the bigger breweries in Atlanta, and one of them had just opened about 20 minutes down the road that was gorgeous and beautiful and huge. And I'm just like, I want to come in and build a brewery. And they were just like, how is this going to work? And I had to really kind of convince them and educate them and show them. And that was a little bit.
One of the city council members direct quote. What about when we went for the rezoning, one of the city council members?
He said the plans reminded him of a trailer park in Alabama.
He said the only thing missing from it was a trailer to make it.
Wow. That's a vote of confidence right there, isn't it?
So no shade on Alabama. No. It's a beautiful state. Right. But I was like, wow, okay. He has eaten his words.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
He has
turned him into a regular customer.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but he comes by every once in a while.
Okay.
No, well, I will say as Amanda said, when we moved here, when she opened in 2015 in Washington, she was one of 77 breweries to open in 2015 out of 490. And Washington has 3/4 of the population of Georgia. And when we moved here, there were 43 breweries total in the state.
Wow.
So, when I was being recruited to come here, I went to a brewery that was called Five Seasons, and they had a beer called Georgia and Mississippi are the only two states in the country that you can't buy a growler or a pint at the brewery. IPA was the name of the beer.
Oh, funny.
And so I called her and told her I was drinking this. The interview went great. She's like, and you want to move there? And I'm like, but it could be a great opportunity because I can't see the laws staying forever, which was kind of the way we got in. But knowing that those were the laws, that you couldn't buy anything at the brewery, everyone had to build for distribution. That meant all the breweries had to be 20 barrel plus. So they didn't understand the concept of a 5 barrel or a 3.5 barrel or, a small brewery because it just didn't exist in the state. And so when they changed the laws and we were preparing for that change, we showed them what you could do on something else. And it's been actually what all the breweries are now trying to scale to because the beer,
they want to scale down at that point.
They're going from these huge systems down.
Right.
It goes off down to the smaller, just in tap room, up over the counter kind of.
Yeah. And so the friend that I met that I know that came to your brewery, I met her because when I got my business started, I was working in a tap room and ended up managing the brewery kind of during the pandemic, managing the front side of it, not the brewing. You don't want me brewing beer, but managing the tap room part. And And so I know the struggle. We had a 7 barrel system, and the Washington brewing environment. I want to say I've been out of it for about a year and a half, year and a half, and I want to say at the end of the year before, there had been like 20 different breweries in Washington that had closed, and
Okay.
it was really tough to compete because you had so many small ones. Um, but with you guys leading the edge, how has that been in the market as the market has shifted? How have you had to adjust or change? Have you seen your business change as you've gotten it open the last few years?
We're actually just adding 2 more days here starting next month. So
I
there's
saw that Sunday and Wednesday coming soon.
Yeah.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
So we're actually growing. We have consistently grown. We aren't I mean, I would say we're doing really well
Yeah.
in the environment of kind of an unknown economy coming up and people not really drinking as much beer or alcohol. I'm pretty proud of Awkward Brewing, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We look at year over year, and there were 3 months we did real close or maybe a little less than the year prior. But
Hmm.
outside of those 3 months, every month was growth. So
Nice.
overall, it was real close to double digit. I think it was close to 10% growth year over year at the end of
Wow.
24 versus 23. And we're really limited by parking and some
Yeah.
logistics that we have to invest in our
Hmm.
infrastructure a little bit better with parking and everything like that.
Right.
But we're really limited by that. So the only way really to have the growth that we had last year is to add more days. So that
Right.
was kind of our thought is there's no way to do it on the same days with the parking situation we have.
Well, and you guys have done a really good job. Your social media is awesome. First of all, not even ever having visited the city you're in, I've seen you when you have events where you're putting an aerial map of where you can park. It's like there's parking over here. Use the church parking lot, whatever. It's like it's
Yeah.
it's really
Not
nice
Not
to
the
see.
church.
Not the
not
church.
Not
Okay,
the
that's
church.
yeah. Sorry, do not do that. But yeah, but where you said
They
where to
have a
park.
huge
they can
empty
the
parking lot.
sheriff's office all you want. They are
Yeah,
super cool with
Yeah.
this. So.
The
gotcha.
church is a huge empty parking lot, always empty.
Right, but
But they're not
They're not a fan.
they're
yeah, that's
well,
fair.
no, they're very nice, but they don't believe in using the parking to come to
A
a place
brewery,
of
that's fair.
alcohol,
You
which
got to
is
stick with
fair
your
on them, and
values.
we respect it, and we don't buckle that.
Yeah, that's it's good to be a good neighbor. One
We
of the things that I think is really critical about your success, and Amanda, you touched on it a little bit when you were talking about moving to the South and having to get used to it before you jumped in
Hmm.
to starting your brewery.
yeah.
I think our tendency sometimes is to jump in with both feet too much instead of giving ourselves a space and say, I've got all these life changes going on right now. Sounds like there's a new job involved. You're relocating your kids, your family, and giving that space, but then also to take your brewery and start with a 5 barrel, I think it was, did you say 5 barrel system?
3.5.
3.5? Yeah. So that compared to these 20 barrel systems,
Right.
that gives you the space for growth versus we're going to create this big thing and then have to try to have enough sales to justify that.
Right.
It
Mm.
sounds like you guys have really done it well. Has there been a secret to that? Was that on purpose from other things that you saw?
I mean, I would just say we've self-funded everything. And
Mhm.
the money that Awkward makes goes right back into the business. So when it first opened, I was brewing on a half barrel brew magic system. So
Mm.
when I had one 3.5 barrel unit tank and I had to fill that thing, I was making 7 turns.
Wow.
I was at the brewery probably, I think the longest I was there was like 20 hours, one brew day.
Wow.
It was exhausting. So when I was able to make enough money to buy the 3.5 barrel, I was like jumping for joy. But then since then I've added 3 new 2 barrels and another 3.5 barrel and 2 more 1s.
Yep.
Mhm.
So really,
And the 3.5 barrel that we added since you opened.
yeah. So
Wow.
so growth is very organic,
Hmm.
um, just slowly. And I don't know if some people might say it's stupid, some people might say it's smart. It's just how it works for Awkward Brewing. So
Right. Yeah. And I I have recently realized and started to admit how hypercritical I am of small businesses, especially local businesses, where I start noticing it's like there's things you could do for free that would be so like just a simple
Mhm.
fix. And I'm not saying it to be mean. It's like I want you to survive. I want you to do well. And I've had businesses where they've got their umbrella covering, their patio umbrellas covering their open sign. And it's just like, if you would just move it to the left or move the chain up, like this is
Mhm.
free. People from the street would see you're open.
Right.
Just little things like that.
Right.
Uh,
You would come and see 100 of them with us,
And I would
and we'd be all
really
right.
appreciate that because
right.
sometimes it's like you're at a space so much you don't always notice everything.
And I,
Mhm.
and
But
I totally understand that. And I look at that too with my business is it's like I'm not trying to say, oh, you got to have everything perfect.
right.
With that particular situation, I mentioned I thought nicely, and they were like, "Oh, it's all." Their response was, "Well, summer's almost over. The umbrella's going to come down." And I'm like, "I can't help you." But um, but yeah, but I love that you mentioned too how you're self-funded because that people view businesses too often, I think, as someone must have won the lotto and then they opened their business. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can start in your garage and work with what you can work with.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And we had to make choices and sacrifices. We have this shower that still has a valve that I took from the brewery to keep it from dripping
Yeah,
in the
ours
house at the
needs some
moment.
work, but
And
it's
we
Right.
chose, a 3.5 barrel instead of that,
Right.
things like that. But I
Right.
but also even we've always been, I wouldn't say risk adverse. We look for the sure bets. So
Hmm.
even the property she described, we got it in the heart of Fayetteville, Georgia, that has the oldest standing, still functioning courthouse that wasn't destroyed in the Civil War and other eras.
Wow. Yeah.
It's also famed for where Margaret Mitchell based Gone with the Wind on, and the property we acquired was actually friends with Margaret Mitchell, the owner.
Wow.
And she, told we heard these stories. We even went to the historical society and heard the transcripts of her sharing how she met Margaret Mitchell and all these things. And the property, but when we bought it, it was $218,000 on an acre and a half with actually three houses, a shop, and a barn.
Hmm.
The shop is where the brewery is. One house had to come down so we could put heavy asphalt for a fire truck to get to the back.
Hmm.
And the other house is still there and is a duplex that we rent out currently. So
Nice.
it was like when you figure 218,000, you have a three houses. That was how we could go into the city council originally and ask for the rezoning and say, hey, it's cash flow positive right now, but we'd prefer to turn it into a business.
Hmm.
And honestly, the city, even though there was a little rockiness with one of the city council at the beginning, has been so embracing us. Even as today, if you look, the city filmed her medal at Great American Beer Fest and did a whole social media video online right now that we shared about her award at Gabiff and pictures of the brewery and everything. They've
yeah,
invited me to be on the downtown development, and
Oh, nice.
so it's been a great place to start a
we're
business and a
very
great
lucky
place to
to
have it.
be in the
Good.
heart of Fayetteville.
And
Yep.
people get really nervous about seeing changes in the heart of their town.
Yep.
This is the backyard I played in when I was a kid. This is
Right,
used to be grandma's house or aunt so and so's house or whatever.
right,
But when you are bringing value and they're seeing that to the
right.
downtown area, that
Mhm.
changes minds a lot. Where it's like, wait, there's revenue being generated, there's jobs being given, there's activity for neighborhoods to go. People can bring their dogs.
Mhm.
Exactly.
And the balance too of, yes, we did some changes to the property, but yes, we kept the old main house basically and put a new roof on it and painted it and have no intention of tearing that house down. We want to embrace kind of the historical part and bring new life to this property. And they also made it that the downtown is actually able to have open container. So if you have a sticker on your cup, you can walk around with one of our beers and go from business to business and shop or explore the downtown or see the historical parts. And we want to be kind of a blend of that new and the history as this area really has a lot of investment coming to it.
Yeah, I love that. All right. Well, I ask everybody on here what their awkward thing is. I hope you guys are ready to get into some really awkward stuff.
And let's talk awkward. What
What?
What my awkward thing is?
Yeah, you can do it
That
as a couple.
question?
You can do it individually, however
I'm
you
just
want to go.
100%. I just look my shirt. Awkward is my specialty.
I love that.
That's my awkward right here.
Yeah,
Yep.
my awkward is right there too.
You married
Just
your
kidding.
awkward. He's married into the awkward.
I don't know. I mean, I just honestly, I am awkward through and through. I've always been awkward. I mean, sometimes I just open my mouth and say things, or my face sometimes says all of my feelings, my internal feelings when I don't mean it. And I have people that we've met through the brewery that have become very good friends that, they'll just look at me and be like, fix your face, Amanda, fix your face. And it's like, I don't intend to have that look, but maybe I have that look.
You need
And
another secret sign language, like you
and
have
yeah,
for
they need to do this to me. I don't
yeah.
know. But I can't really pinpoint my awkward. I just feel like it's kind of my persona a
It's just
little
part
bit.
of you.
Yeah.
Her Patronus is awkward.
Yeah. What is
Uh,
your awkward?
my awkward is sometimes I open my mouth too much, and I am very much a character. You'd think I was still in my 20s, and the fact that, I'll dress as something and take people on a pub crawl, or I'll
What's your brewery title?
ambassador of fun. That's
And with
because I
the
try to have fun.
ASS is capitalized
It is.
within that.
I
It
love that.
is.
So I
100%.
I had not heard you mention that till today when you were or whichever video you had on Friday with Harry and you were talking about Andrew being there and the ambassador of
Beer
fun.
poke.
Yeah.
And the brewery that I worked at, Odd Otter, our trivia host goes by the ambassador of fun.
Oh,
And
really?
I thought, what a small world. I'm just like, oh my gosh,
That's
we gotta
funny.
connect you guys. But yeah,
Yeah.
And I do obnoxious things that are a little bit off color, and so far have not been totally beat up for it. Like some of the beer names, we had a Belgian trip. She's let me name just a few.
okay.
The Belgian quadruple, which is called awkward foreplay because we're a golf community with foursomes that play in
I
it.
love that.
F-O-R-E.
No, number four. Number four.
Oh,
um, or Menage a Twawkward, the Belgian triple, or a couple of them that she lets me get away with, and for some reason I haven't been canceled from it yet.
people love it.
And they love some of the, like, we did a beer poke on Saturday, which is where you heat up a metal rod and you put it into a beer and it caramelizes the sugar and it causes the foam to go really high, but the
Okay.
foam's warm, but the beer's cold. And
Yeah.
it's a really cool experience because it changes the flavors of the beer so much. Like our spicy pepper stout loses a lot of the spice, or our we have a brown imperial brown that's a smoked old fashioned that actually gets the cherries come out really well. So everyone was coming around the fire pit and having the beer poke and really loved it. But
How
all of
cool.
them let me record them saying, because our fire pit's kind of behind this bush, that they've been poked behind the bushes at awkward,
I love
and
that.
stuff like
You
that.
almost need
And
a t-shirt, like
yeah,
or a
we're
button people
talking
can
about
buy
it
or a
because that's what
magnet, like a
everyone
sticker.
said. We need to have a t-shirt for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The picture of a beer poke.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, you could have them and just only sell them when you do that event.
Exactly.
Listen, we just
Exactly.
lean into it.
Yeah.
It's like, why run from it? You just lean in.
She used to every now and then go, "Ooh, I don't know," and she's just really let me now
It
kind of
works.
do my thing.
It
Yeah.
works. So
Yeah,
maybe one day, maybe sometimes I'm going to put my foot down.
Yeah.
right. Well, and there's an art to the marketing that when you have those playful names that it lowers boundaries and people have fun with it and
Yeah.
shows you're not too serious. I mean, you can't be too serious with a name called Awkward Brewing, but
Correct. My favorite was a guy, because we're still in the South. It's pretty conservative. He
Mhm.
came up to the bar, and you'll have to tell the story of when you wouldn't say the name.
So he's looking at the menu and he says, "Ooh, I really want that one." And he pointed to the Belgian quad, the awkward foreplay. I really really like that beer. I really like that beer, but I just can't order it. And I said, "Oh, really? Why?" And at this point I had no idea. And he
Right.
said, I just don't, I can't order it because I don't approve of the name. And I said, I was like, okay, here we go. How am I going to do this? So I'm like, awkward foreplay? And he goes, yeah. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, I just don't think that's an appropriate name. And I said, I don't understand why. And he goes, and he looks at me like, come on. And I said, we live in a golf community. It's four. Like, you yell four, and but Belgian quad and four. So we just kind of leaned into both of those and it became awkward foreplay. I don't know what you're talking about. So I kind of twisted it back on
And
him.
then she asked
Like
him,
your mind's the one that's in the
what did
gutter.
you think it
Yeah, I
meant?
was like, what did you think?
He's like, oh,
He's like, nothing. Yeah, I'll have one of those. I didn't realize.
That is the best way to turn that around. Oh my God. I love that.
Now if he listens to this,
He'll
he'll
know.
know.
Right. You busted. He
well.
probably won't, but that
He
is
probably won't.
Oh, no, you never know. We'll share it.
one of his friends will hear it and they'll be
Yeah.
like, because he'll have told them the story.
He'll come back and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about.
He's like that poor naive owner of that brewery had no idea.
Yeah. He's telling that story on some
Yeah.
podcast.
They also had a French name too. It was Menage or something. I'm just like, oh my God.
Yeah. She
Oh, I
doesn't
love that.
know. That's funny.
Oh, that is awesome. Those are
Or the other
great.
ones that I love too is when people try to order our IPA or our double IPA, they'll say, I would like that IPA awkward. And you're like, there really is no extra A in it. It's just IP awkward. But everyone is so worried about saying IP awkward or I2P awkward for the double IPA that it makes you kind of laugh. I would say I only hear 1 out of 50 actually say I'll take an IP awkward.
Yeah.
They all say IPA awkward or the IPA. Like they won't say the name, which makes us laugh every time.
Yeah. It's like you have to admit it in order to get the beer.
Yeah.
You can't get it without ordering it correctly. Yeah. We had some names on the brewery was Odd Otter, so we had a lot of similar type name twists. And sometimes there were some names that were tongue twisters. I was like, if you're sober enough to say it, you can have the beer.
Yeah.
Right.
You have to be able to order it.
That's good.
We have her sister wants to have a brewery that's called Rural Brewing.
Rural Brewing.
Yes.
Okay.
You can never say it. Rural Brewery.
Yeah, you're gonna always sound like you're slurring your words.
Yeah.
I love that. So brewing is in the family, huh?
Well, I don't think she's gonna do it. She just likes
the name. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah. Yeah, there are people who will go out there and claim names just for the fun of it to, save the idea. But like you said, you've got to show it's in use within a certain amount of time. You can't just keep it forever.
You do.
I have bought more than my fair share of brewery names, and I've always redirected them at the brewery that eventually becomes the brewery.
The URL, not the trademark.
Not the trademark, but like the web domains, because I've always wanted a brewery. So I'd have a bunch of them that I had kicking around, like because we were in Lake Stevens, we had Lake Stevens Brewing.
Yeah.
And now there's actually a Lake Stevens Brewing that's a friend of ours that did it. And I don't even want to figure out how to value what the domain name. So I just pointed at his brewery, so it just goes straight to it.
Nice. Yeah, it's nice how easily you can do that nowadays too. Where it's just like, I just want this to point here. Funny sometimes when you see sites get hacked that aren't supposed to be that way. Yeah. So we've gotten into all the awkward things. We've gotten into the brewery. What's the most awkward thing that's happened? I mean, other than maybe the Belgian foreplay guy, you got any fun awkward stories from the brewery?
Man, it feels like every weekend is a little bit awkward. We've grown this kind of family that everyone calls, themselves even, awkward family.
Yeah.
And it's funny when you say fun experiences, you always think of a couple of those moments that brought you together as a community instead of the ha-ha ones. Sure. We've had a million of the ha-ha ones, but those aren't the ones that kind of have gelled our position in the community. I think we've had there's been losses in the community, or there's been other things that people have kind of looked to our venue and our fellow customer base to really provide support. So a lot of times we'll look around the brewery and it's awesome because you can look around and say all these people sitting together or friends, or see them on social media going to a motorcycle rally or going to another brewery or hanging out on a Saturday. You can go, none of these people knew each other before Awkward.
Wow.
And they'll admit it too. They'll be like, the friends and the community has been amazing. But I think the fun parts have been just being silly. Like when we were in Washington, we would do the BunnyCon, we'd do SantaCon, in downtown Seattle, all the crazy stuff, and try bringing that to like a small community with an old courthouse. And we've done it, like
a onesie beer hop,
and they love it.
They love the pub crawls. They love the Santa
dressing up. Yeah,
we have a customer who comes in almost every weekend, and His name is Larry. Shout out to Larry. And he is our, when we do our ground frogs day, he's our frog, he's our Easter bunny, he's our Santa Claus,
Yep.
he was our Cupid. I mean, he's our
It's true.
mascot. And he's pretty awkward. And
Yeah.
everyone loves Larry and everyone knows Larry. So I can't think of one
Yeah.
particular awkward moment. People come in the door and they've learned to embrace their awkward as well. So I
I
guess that's
love
the
that.
biggest thing.
And you know, to what Andrew was saying too about the community and the big events, whether it's, you know, sometimes not a good thing, a death or whatever, but the building is just a building and the beer is just beer, but you're bringing people together, and that's really where the
Mhm.
magic is. I mean, it's not that you're not making amazing products, but if you're not curating that space,
Right.
that's what brings people back, and that's where the meaning comes in.
Right.
Yeah. And what I love too, that's been awesome, you start to know when there's somebody who hasn't been to your brewery before because you see, 50 people and you know all but 48.
Right.
And the fun is, though, you don't even have to be the proprietor of the shop because the 48 are, hey, you guys are new to Awkward. Larry will always say that. Awkward
Not
virgins.
just
Oh,
Larry, but like
Everyone.
everyone. It's just you come in, and if you're having a bad day and all you want to do is drink a beer by yourself, good
It's
luck.
really hard. It's really
yeah.
hard. And we don't have to say one word. Everyone will be like, what's your name?
Yeah,
There,
Oh, what do you do? Blah,
it's
blah, blah.
there's
amazing.
another t-shirt for you. Like, I lost my virginity at Awkward Brewing.
Yeah, it's true.
Like, I'm no longer an awkward virgin.
I
Yeah,
like
it's
that
true.
so much.
That's
Yeah,
a good one,
that
actually.
is.
Anyway, this is one of the things, like, that's just the way my mind works, like from that marketing standpoint, is like you're always
Yeah.
just thinking about like, okay, what's the thing? And I have like my Own Your Awkward Etsy store. So it's like
Yeah.
I have some that just say awkward. And I've had some punchlines and stuff that I've pulled out of there because I'm trying to just keep it all awkward themed. But every once in a while it's like, oh, I gotta put that in my notes so that I remember to go add the shirt
Yeah.
to the lineup. But
Yeah.
I almost did that. I was going to look, see about adding it.
yeah. No, that is amazing. So, what would you? We're gonna go in a second here. How can people best support you? Like, if we're not local, or if we are, like, what's the best way to really just give you guys love and attention? We got people listening from all over the world.
Don't
I know.
judge the website. Don't judge the website. If you're
Okay.
not on the website, Andy, I'm sorry.
Yeah. We're going to get a new one made. That will be in this
That's
year's
part
business plan.
putting
This
money
is
back
this
in.
is a
Yeah.
judgment-free podcast family
Thank you.
community
I
that we're all
appreciate that.
extended awkward. It's awkward
Yeah.
family in a different way over here, but
Yeah.
yeah, people listening to this show, if you're judging, then just take me off your follow list. Like, I don't need to
Yeah.
follow.
The website's pretty bad. So if you go to Awkward website, you're gonna be like, ooh. But we are on Facebook, Awkward Brewing. We're on Instagram, same. Now that TikTok's back, we're on TikTok. That's where the real fun is.
Nice.
Yeah, we tend to go super family friendly on Facebook, a little less on Instagram, and then no hold bars on TikTok because we're like, hey, no one will probably look at this, so we can
So
just
love
be
that.
obnoxious.
Not
That's
for
about
TikTok.
the same as my strategy too. It's like the really raw stuff. Anything that I like, TikTok for me is like the playground. Like, I'm gonna put everything on there, and
Yep.
then I'll filter what goes to Instagram, Facebook, and
Yep.
LinkedIn
Exactly.
Same.
is really
But I think so following us to follow our journey would be great.
Yeah.
If you get a chance to come in, please come in and have a beer. Even if you're in a time when we aren't normal open hours, reach in on our social media and say, I'm going to be in town and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Half the time we'll be there or we'll be doing something. We'll open up to have a beer.
awesome.
If you use
But
Untapped and drink the beer, rate the
that
beer.
I was going to say that could be a huge one because right now she's probably, if you look on Untapped, she's the highest rated brewery in Untapped, but the check-ins are much less than a big brewery, right?
Sure.
So
Oh,
if you
right.
look at it, but still at a 4.17, I think is what she's got as an Untapped rating. Even breweries of similar size rarely push over that four rating. So
Wow.
and I travel and I look on Untapped. I'm at 7,000 unique beers on Untapped right now. And I
Mm,
look for the ones that are like anything 3.8, 3.9, 4, and I'll go
okay.
to that brewery. And I would say I have yet to be disappointed with a brewery of any size over 4. It means it's got some good beer. And we actually don't encourage people at probably enough to check in because Really think if we could get that even more, it just keeps cementing. After we kind of judged it, but after winning a medal at Great American Beer Fest, it's like, no, the beer's actually really good. It's not just
Yeah.
people,
And
telling us
and
it's good.
and that is no small thing. Tell us about the medal. Tell us about the beer. I mean, I just saw the announcement. It
Oh my gosh, it was
sounds good.
amazing. It was a shock, to be honest. So sent that beer off, and that was a little bit of a story too, but I know we don't have a lot of time, but got it sent off finally. I put the 6 bottles in their styrofoam container. I wrote on the styrofoam container little notes. You might see it on our Instagram page, little notes, be safe, little beer, good luck.
I
And
love
I
that.
thanked the judges and all that. It was just kind of like sending it off with a little bit of love and encouragement. Then gosh, it was a Saturday. It was like maybe 1:30. We had just opened. It was kind of quiet in the tap room. I was sitting watching college football, talking to a few customers, and um, I got a text, congratulations, Awkward, and it showed that it was from another brewery here, and it showed that it was we had the silver in the Belgian fruited beer category, and I was like,
Wow.
what the heck? Oh my gosh. It was so exciting. Like
Yeah.
so
Yeah, especially we've been to Great American Beer Fest
yeah.
three times. And we had our wedding vows renewed at Great American Beer Fest, but from
Okay.
St.
Wow.
Arnold.
Yeah.
Like my nephew met Amanda's sister's best friend because he lived in Colorado, met her at Great American Beer Fest, and now they're married with kids. Like Great
Wow.
American Beer Fest has been kind of a staple in our land, and to win a medal, like we were kind of screwing around. We only sent one beer. We
Mhm.
only sent 6 bottles of it, or 6 or 8, I can't remember, and had no real thought that we'd have a chance of winning, and to be one of basically 9, I think, breweries in the state to medal. And the breweries that medaled were incredible
Big breweries.
breweries,
Yeah.
ones that we admire and we love. So
Right.
it was really
It was
awesome.
very
Yeah.
exciting.
That's congratulations. That's awesome. So see, when you visit, it's not just about the environment. That's great. You're also going to have great beer with great people. Um,
Mhm.
what would be just one bit of advice you could give people before we go on how they could really lean into their awkward?
Gosh, I would say before I did this, I was not a confident person. It was hard for me to get up and talk in front of anybody. I really had to step out of my comfort zone. I had to go in front of city council. I had to plead my case. I was on multiple like little media outlet things, and I had to talk a lot. I had to ask the neighbors to support me that I didn't know. It was really hard for me. But I think if I hadn't done that, if I gave into, oh, this is too awkward, I can't do this, I'm too scared, I wouldn't be where I'm at now. So I would just encourage everybody, just, you know what, it might feel a little uncomfortable, you might feel awkward, but really probably you're the only one feeling that. People
Mm,
don't really, because if someone comes and asks me something, I'm not noticing they're awkward. Really, even if they stumble over their words, to me, it's like no big deal. So
right.
I would just encourage people, just try to push through as much as you can, because you just never know what that one stepping out of your comfort zone is ever going to do for you.
I love that.
And I think on mine, we there's all the challenges of having a family and investing in a new business that really requires a lot of time. And I didn't come up with this advice, but I would say I loved Amanda telling me it, that she went to like kind of like a well child, doctor visit, right?
For your daughter.
For our daughter. And there was a lot of stress because we were at the brewery a lot, and we really try to go early in the morning so we can still see him off to school, or we can still be home for dinner, or whatever it might be, especially on brew days and stuff like that. But we were feeling this pressure of putting too much energy into a business and worrying that we weren't giving enough to the family. And our kids are incredible. They're beautiful. They're smart. They're going to be incredibly successful. But we were feeling like we were starting to kind of feel that effects of, are they feeling neglected a little bit, right?
Right.
And she was talking to our daughter's doctor, and our daughter, or I don't know the exact words of how they said it, but they kind of said, "Hey, you're showing your kid the best example you could." I don't, you heard it, so I
She
don't want to say it
basically
right.
said, paraphrase, I said, I feel like I'm failing as a mother. And she said, you're
Mm,
not. You're showing your child is that you're a strong woman, and I mean, we can just include us, but you're a strong woman going out, pursuing your dreams, doing what you can, not leaving anything on the table. And right now it might be hard for your family, but your girls are going to look at you and they're going to know that their mom rocks, their dad rock, and you guys like, don't just keep doing it. Don't worry. And it was like, I don't even know. That kind of paraphrased it, but it was like
that moment she needed it.
I needed it. And it was thing. And I've spoken like women's conferences, business conferences and things, and I've told that story. And so many people have reached out to me after that saying, thank you for that. I needed that.
Right. So. Yeah, that's so powerful.
But I still think that advice is bring your family into it too, because they've heard that story. It really helped hearing it from an outside source, but they've been involved in helping us brew beer. They've been involved in, they're allowed to work behind the counter. Like our oldest is allowed to work behind the counter. And she starts going, wait a minute, I can make as much here in a day that I make at a couple weeks at Starbucks. So maybe I should do this,
Maybe this
is, I mean, own it, embrace it. If it's something you love, like double down on it and just try to find a way to bring your family in. They don't ever want to be what you are. So don't expect them to like embrace the family job, right? But just try to bring them in to understand why you're doing it, how you're involved, how, you can impact the community around you. I think that really helps.
Yeah, I think that's so beautiful because sometimes, in traditional work environments, we tend to separate. I'm going to raise my family and have family time, and then I'm going to go to work and do my thing. And other than the bring your kid to work day, it's kind of like, here's your glimpse of what mom or dad do at work. But when it's just this holistic, this is our lifestyle, your kid grows up knowing the work ethic, knowing the values, learning skills that you don't even realize you're teaching them to run a business or to run their household or whatever that is, wherever they take that. So
our balance. Just balance it all.
Yeah, I love that. Well, you guys, this has been amazing. I can't wait to get to Atlanta. Hopefully by the end of this year, we're going to get down there and we're going to drink some beer, have fun, and get awkward together. Thank you.
Sounds great. Good. Thank you so much for having us on. It's nice to meet you.
Yeah. And everybody else, if you are anywhere near Fayetteville, Georgia, if you are within a 10-hour plane ride, get there, have a beer. And until you can do that, get online, follow them on social media. And as always, own your awkward.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening in for today's show. Be sure to visit awkwardcareer.com to continue your journey. And of course, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends so they can find their awkward side and learn how to own it.